We'll go to the Chief Financial Officer's report.
Okay, I'd like to summarize the May financials. On Board Book 23 is the monthly financial report outlining the revenue and expenditures broken down by the different categories that are in there. This is 11 months out of our 12, 92% of the budget. Following the monthly report is the financial statements showing each fund with revenue and expense coming in, going out with it. And then it shows us our percentages as far as the actuals versus the budget. Following the monthly financials, you'll find the revenue expense report for the month of May. The key thing on there is to look at what was budgeted versus what comes in encumbered, added, and check to see where we're at by percentage-wise. After the revenue expense report is our student activity accounts, highlighting the different activity accounts that we have. Just a reminder, negative balances are actually positive funds on that.
Any questions on the activity report?
Yeah, I forgot to look. Are there any that have forget the way you present it. By the way, it'd be nice if you download an Excel and reverse the numbers so you don't have to keep saying negative means positive.
Mm-hmm.
Something you might want to consider.
All right, I'll see
But
if
which
I can.
of them are overdrawn as of now?
Not too many. We have like,
But the policy requires us to resolve them all before the end of the fiscal year, which
but some of them have already had the negative balance that carried over from the prior year.
and last year we told the last CFO the same thing. It's in the school code and it's in our policy, and we can't just keep ignoring the policy and the law because we did it last year.
Mm-hmm.
We need to address the fact that we have to approve loans. If there's no activity in them, we're supposed to close the accounts. And just sending a report every month doesn't resolve those requirements that we have, does it?
No, it does not.
So can we resolve them all for a presentation at the July meeting?
Okay, I will research all the accounts that have inactivity per what the board policy is on that and have a report for July
And any that are negative.
and any negative ones.
So Scott, when we're looking at, what page are the activity accounts on?
59.
59.
Starting on 59.
So, I mean, like the credit card account, I'm assuming that's a negative balance of $503.
Yes.
What's the credit card account used for?
More or less when we process the credit card stuff, so it may not have been updated as of what comes in and out.
So this is where we pay the fees for?
Mm-hmm.
So really, there's no way to reconcile that.
Not, pretty much no.
And although the board sees these accounts as like individual checking accounts, all this money sits in one account with the bank.
Yes. And it's all one bank account with it, just broken up by individual activities.
Well, the biggest one, the concern is English, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And what is that associated with? And is that one next year
That's
going
why
to be rolled in?
That's why we shifted
We
these,
shifted to a board account so that
Right.
you wouldn't run the negative on it.
because every year the school board, we covered this with the board. Every
Yeah.
year the school board was in the historicals before Scott got here, before I got here. When parents were paying their fees, they were going into student activity accounts. But there's no way to budget student activity accounts. It's more of a cash on hand flow through account. And so you can't account for the 18% free and reduced lunch that don't pay their fees and the board waives. So we were just incurring more a negative balance every year, because if you needed $500 in paperback books and $100 of that is waived every year, you were adding a negative balance, which is why we shifted more of these, and we're shifting all of the student fee accounts to the board accounts, so that the board can budget for the waived fees. So I don't know, I will go through this with Scott and see if there's issues that need to be reconciled. And if
Here's
we
what
can.
the issue is, because I remember, because I brought it up every year I've been on the board. You can't, if a fund is going to be overdrawn, the board has to decide. We have a fiduciary responsibility for these funds, independent of the funds for the district. The board does. And because of that, there's rules that apply. And the two main rules are, if there's no activity in an account for a year, you're supposed to close it or transfer it to somewhere else. And there's been reasons we haven't done that, like the class funds where they're raising it for the prom or whatever. The other one is, if an account needs to have a loan, we have to approve the loan, which we had a difference of opinion with our last CFO of whether a negative balance, by definition, we're loaning that account money. So if you're cleaning them up, like English or whatever, then we need to clean it up, take it off. If we're not going to use it anymore, take it off the list, right?
Exactly.
But if
It's
we're
the
gonna
only way
have
that-
some
it's the
that's
only thing
for-
that you can do.
If we're going to have one for a specific purpose, like say Todd sets one up for the water polo.
There is one, and it's negative.
Negative.
It's
Okay, and
negative.
it's negative, then you either have to tell us whether we should allow them to loan them money and be negative. And if there's somewhere there's been no activity in a year, we should close the account or have a reason why we didn't close the account.
Well, we can provide it at July.
Okay.
I mean, from a quick glance, I think we're talking less than
We
five,
got
or
five,
roughly
we got
five.
five, yeah, and the girls basketball is the other, and then there's a alumni one.
The alumni achievement is what we always run a negative, because that's the plaques on the wall, and then if we get enough people to buy tickets to come to the dinner to recognize these alumni. The only one I see that would, the English one is never going to be fixed.
And we're moving that out.
We move that out.
We're going to bring it into the board.
So
into the
we
budget.
could delete it and then restart it if they want to open a different account under a different name.
Is there a procedure like in the girls' water polo to allow to go to a negative balance? Is there a procedure where somebody is monitoring the fundraising that they're achieving, to what their expenditures are, and to say how could it go to $759 negative? I mean, who's
We have
looking at that?
we have a person that's directly in, Jen Reynolds, directly runs our student activity accounts.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens in the summer with the negatives, why you might see like a water polo or something, is if they're running a summer camp, they front the money to buy some of their supplies, and then as they collect the money, they pay some of that off.
Well,
So we-
but you should you should know that. You should be saying, you should, in these counts that are negative, you say, yes, we fronted the water polo team money. They gave us a game plan that it's going to come in July, and we're okaying, and maybe we as a board, we agreed to say anything under X $1,000, you're authorized to loan monies to these particular organizations in the interim. But you should be aware of that.
Sometimes they're waiting on checks back from.
I understand that, so
Booster
that's what
Club
we're
as
saying.
well.
We can maybe come up with a standard policy that says up to a certain dollar amount.
Let us-
As long as you know a game plan that you fronted them money, not to be surprised to say, English is now 60, or water polo is now 759, and they have no game plan to refund it,
Yeah.
right? You should know that they have a game plan, they fronted the money, or they ran this year in deficit, but they anticipate covering it up next year.
Which is a logical reason why the board's got to approve the loan, because otherwise, most of these are set up for these kinds of things, and if they're not funded or they're overdrawn, the board has to
We have to
pay
then-
for it.
yeah, we have to
Something
then
we never
contribute money
budgeted
into
for
it.
and we never approved. That's why it's important.
Well, let us check
Yeah,
the
that's fine.
policy, let us write up a
That's
little
fine.
summary report for you in July and a CFO report,
That's fine.
and we might be able to reconcile most of these right off the bat.
Fine.
All right. Okay, and the last report that is submitted to you is the quarterly business review submitted by Aramark. That is our operations maintenance service that we have that takes care of our building. Just a summary of this is basically looking at projects that will be done this summer, some of the work orders that they've already done, and as they continue to address different issues within the building, it's all outlined in there if you peruse through that report.
And they presented it at the Facilities Council, so Wes or I could ask, if you have questions, you could ask us if you want.
Remind me, wasn't there a issue with was the issue with the bathroom this year, or was it previous year where a teacher came and said that bathroom hadn't been worked on for 6 months?
That was earlier, that was in the fall.
Okay, and how did that occur? If it's, because I don't see any issues whatsoever. So, everything is like a half a day or less than. How did that not make?
Well, there's two different
so
sections
maybe-
on the reporting. One of them, it's like, what are the two breakdowns?
One
One's
of them is like
maintenance.
Preventative maintenance. and
Preventative
one's
maintenance, and then
work
their
order.
work orders that are submitted.
The work orders is a lot longer if you look at it.
And it's in
that's
there
the
where it took
reactionary.
6 months issue? Is it, there was a,
It was on the report the last time.
it was,
I'll
okay.
have to check.
The teacher was upset that it was caution taped off and tied up and it wasn't repaired.
Right.
But if they couldn't replace the plumbing or the urinal, that was the issue.
Okay, all right, I just, okay. Okay.
And that's it for the financial report.
There were some questions submitted, or is that under bills?
One, page 27.
That was on, let's see here, that's your levy, taxes collected on that one. Okay, yes, the question that was submitted is, are we $100,000 under what was budgeted for collection? The answer is yes. Potentially, depending on if the county distributes more money by the end here, we may or may not see one more payment that may bring up the current year taxes up from 94% maybe to like 97, 98%
Okay.
on that. But that all depends on the county.
County, and it goes through the treasurer's
It
office
goes through
first,
treasurer.
correct?
If not, then it would go through with the auditor and they do it.
Well, we'll
after the
have
fact.
some receipts during June, more than likely, right?
That's what we're hoping on.
We had 114,000 in May. It's probably unlikely we'll have 100,000 in June, isn't it?
There may be one more payment distribution. I'm not 100% sure on that. I talked with the treasurer on it. If it comes in time, they will put it in
Okay.
and distribute it. And it pretty much coincides with most of the funds if you looked at the prior year taxes and then the current year taxes.
Right.
With the percentages.
Right. That's why I only highlighted the one, the big one. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
We're going to be talking about facility fees. What was the increase on the Aramark's, annual increases in Aramark's contract? What
It
kind-
goes by CPI.
Okay,
So it went off of last year's CPI, which is the 0.7.
okay.
and
It's
when-
100% of the CPI though, right?
Yes. But if we pay the lump sum amount up front, we also get a 2% or,
Discount on it.
right, so there's a savings.
But we've been doing that, so
Yes.
there is no, right? So if we continue doing that,
There will be
no-
a savings,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay, Gary?